Hello and welcome to SuperCoach Edge for the Round 5 review and Round 6 preview. And since we left you last week, there's been plenty of news, you could probably say. Well, the AFL continued their pursuit of covering their own asses from potential future lawsuits around concussion, with Will Day suspended for 2 weeks. Geez, how did that happen? Come on. How is it even suspendable?
2 weeks.
Well, yeah, let alone 1.
Right.
Come on, just give him 1. Yeah, we could probably delve into this a bit further, but we won't because we'll continue on. And that continued as we record this episode at the moment because news has come to light that Tom Green, Taylor Adams, and most surprising of all, Zach Merritt being offered 1 week suspensions. Absolutely ridiculous. Jared Witts failed to return to the team, out with soreness once again, as owners were left scrambling to cover for him again. We finally saw the unveiling of the Yeti himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Will Gould, which is why we're calling this episode the Gould Rush, because we all got a little bit of a rush in our bodies, a little bit of tingling. It was amazing to see him just be unleashed. And yes, he does in fact exist, and it was a thing of beauty. Although, Liam, we both had a bit of a brief discussion, just as a bit of a side note to this monologue. I only saw him when they had wide angles on. I didn't see any close-up shots. I just saw only the wide camera. And I'm still not yet convinced that he actually exists, but we'll take the word for it, maybe.
I guess.
But meanwhile, Docherty owners were forced to trade, if they weren't already, that is, after news of an MCL injury, with one of the more popular trading options of Dawson being an absolute pig, going best on ground with no tag against my mob, who put in a pitiable performance, mind you. But Liam, I imagine you had a better weekend with the Dons putting on an absolute clinic against the Ds.
Yes, thanks, Damon. It was a good weekend. Enjoyed a good win for my boys, which was nice. But what was almost as equally as nice was thinking that Clarry might have actually dropped in price. But the tagging job was good early. I think it waned a little bit as the game went on. So he did storm home. I think he ended up with 41 disposals. After having, I think it was like 2 or 3 in quarter 1, and then I think he had 10 to halftime. So went absolutely nuts.
Do you reckon it was kind of like a ball on a string type scenario? You know, you get those balls that you get little kickback things where you you tie them around your waist and then you kick the foot in and it bounces back. It was virtually, I reckon he was just out in the field with one of those.
Well, I reckon the game, basically, I reckon the game went the way that we kind of spoke about, I think, last week in the wet. Like the first half of the game was pretty dry, and then the second half was when the rain started, and that's when Clarry went nuts, like a pig in the proverbial shit.
Lapping it up.
Or
His
mud.
trotters are getting dirty.
Yeah, pretty much. He was very, I mean, it was basically after halftime it started raining, so it literally was the weather changed. So yeah, didn't see it non-owners, if I'm honest. I thought I was going to potentially get him for a very juicy price. But it was also good to see the Rucks put in some very decent scores and reward us all, considering none of them have really fired at the same time. We had Marshall with 123, Tim English 139, Grundy 128, Draper 103, and Darcy 136. And even Asava, Radigalia went ahead with an 88, Damon. How'd you see that?
Who's that? Oh, is it that bloke that attempts to play football for Geelong? Yeah, that bloke. Yeah, very good. I don't even know how he's on the list, but good on him. But it was actually quite fun, and tip of the cap to him. He's I'll own that if he puts in good performances like that. But I must say, again, he went missing. And if I was an owner, I would be a little bit salty, even though he put in a decent enough score. But he looked like he was killing it early on and then went missing. Where does he go? Does he go to the local tuck shop just down the road? I'm just going to go get a pie, just smash a pie. It's just, interesting behavior from Masava.
Yep. Agreed. But we also have some exciting news before we tuck into the show proper. We'll be chatting with Shorty of Shorty's SuperCoach, getting to answer some questions. It's a bit of a long-awaited collab that has been weeks, maybe months in the making.
Yeah, I reckon about a month now, because there's been some, and apologies, but I forget the name of the other user. He uses us. That's virtually what it is. But the listener / viewer that has He's been at us a few times. He's been like, when are you doing your collab with Shorty? And then he's been at Shorty on his lives as well and being like, when are you doing it with the SuperCoach Edge boys? So whoever that person is, and apologies, I forget your name, mate, but we are doing it. So
yes,
you can finally put your pants back on and tuck into some extra content.
Yes. Yes. And before we again get into the show proper, if you are wanting to find us on our socials for all the latest news of suspensions, I don't know who else is going to get suspended this round. Post-match SuperCoach scores and the odd meme or two. Maybe you need to, how we used to always, you always picked players that used to tackle. Now we're going to have to avoid players that tackle now.
Nick Dacos, for example.
Yeah.
Seagulling.
Exactly. But anyway, if you want to follow us on our socials, you can do so via Twitter at @supercoach_edge, Damon at DemoJ88, myself at Liam Evans_95, and on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, search SuperCoach Edge, and that's where you'll find us. Well, let's kick off the episode with the usual treatment of the good, the bad, and the ugly with some highlights and lowlights from the round that was.
For those new to our show, in the good, the bad, and the ugly, we roll through some of the notable and more forgettable performances across the round as we, run through all that and touch on how our own teams performed in our head-to-head rivalry as we wrestle, as we say, for ultimate supremacy.
Yes, and in the good, we have none other than Jordan Dawson, who backed up his mammoth score of 173 with a very, very respectable score of 156 on the weekend. Despite fear of a tag incoming from Hewitt or Kono, Dawson went big, increasing his price by over 60K in the last 2 weeks and now has a break even of 54. I think he's also the top ranked midfielder now as well, because he got DPP. Like it's all coming up Jordan Dawson. So it is going to be very tough getting him in now, but gonna have to find a way.
Yep, gonna have to find a way. Just have to chip away, and just those cash cows better be cash cowing, just mooing. give us a big old moo. But in terms of the bad, so we did touch on it in the intro, and the bad this week is really in the eye of the beholder, and it's the pink sweaty pig himself in Clarry Oliver. So the score on the weekend went from good to bad for non-owners, and from ugly to good for owners, as he sat on just 2 possessions at quarter time. And I was rubbing my little trotters together, Liam, because I was thinking I'm going to be tasting some juicy bacon of the Clarry Oliver variety. But on a massive last quarter, he amassed 20 possessions, which saw him eke out a very respectable score of 115 for owners, leaving non-owners like us dreaming, just continuing to dream of just how low his price could have dropped. And I was doing the sums, and I was like, all right, he's kind of averaging about 25 points per quarter at 3/4 time. And I'm like, all right, so if he hits around about 90 to 100, I'll be fine with that. And then he was just bang, bang, bang. So I was lucky that he actually didn't score more than that, considering he had 40 disposals.
Yeah.
So counting our blessings a little bit. So it could have been more. But the game, thanks to the Dons, imagine if Melbourne were up, like if the result was the shoe was on the other foot and Melbourne were up by 40 points and he was continuing to kill it, his score would have kept going up. So I can thank the Dons, your mob, for keeping that score down because it meant nothing. But it meant something to us. We missed out on him.
It was, I remember looking at the 3/4 time score and we're like, he won't make 100 perfect. And then I was very wrong. But anyway.
It's like the narrator. It's like, yes, he was wrong. It's like, he's not going to make over 100. And narrator.
It's a fake. It's fiction. It's an urban legend that never happened.
Anyway, let's move on to the ugly. And this week, we've got it reserved for the sub rule. Now, this week, we saw a number of players cash gen absolutely halted, all due to either being subbed off or being subbed on. We're talking about Ruben Ginby, who was subbed off for a score of just 51, and Cam McKenzie starting as a sub and scoring just 14. We knew this could happen, but it's just something to keep in mind in the weeks that continue. Cash gen is going to be a little bit of a struggle, I think.
Yeah, but at least there are some cash cows on the horizon, which we will get into, obviously, in the next segment coming up. But it was looking like dire straits completely. And, but we'll delve into that in a little bit more detail shortly. So let's delve into our teams, shall we? So on my front, scored 2,303. And in terms of ranking, I'm going in the right direction at least. So I went up 8,848 spots to now sit 23,969. Still a little bit too high for my liking, but I'm almost, hitting the 10K chipping away spots every week so far. So hopefully it goes in the same direction. So I did end up kicking off what I'm calling the 2 down, 1 up upgrade strategy last week with Stuart, the big in at the expense of Set-and-forget-erfield. So tip of the cap to the former blue new Don, did his job well and truly. And the likes of Jones and Elwyn Davey Jr. made way for fresh meat or fresh cash cows in Samson Ryan and Michelini. Kind of sounds a bit weird calling those boys fresh meat. But Jones, as I expected, punched out 28 more points than Michelini. Of course, This is always the case. They put on an absolute ball terror when you get rid of him. But must say it's that cash gen I hold most dearly long term, which is what the young crow brought me on the weekend. First up, jumping up a touch under 50K with another 30K on the horizon this week. So pretty happy with that, and looking a little bit more rosier in terms of cash cows on the horizon, but happy nonetheless to have made a little bit more bank, because I'll need it. I'll need it in order to bring in that sweet, sweet, juicy bacon of the Clarry variety. Will Day, he was suspended, of course, for the 2 weeks. So I opted to hold him as a potential pod once he returns with the handy midfield defender DPP addition. It did mean that I had to rely on Wilmot taking the field, but he scored a handy 68, so I was happy enough with him. But overall, if you want to check out the more detailed rundown of how my team performed last weekend, head across to my Team Talk episode, which just dropped as we recorded this about 2 hours prior on the Monday. So check that out. Delve into, of course, as well, the strategy and trades that I'm looking to do this week heading into round 6. So it is, of course, a YouTube exclusive for those tuning in via podcast. So jump across to there and check it out if you are interested. But Liam, how'd you go?
Yes, I didn't go quite as well as you there, Damon. Score of 2,272. I was actually quite happy with the score considering my recent weeks. And did see me with a nice little jump up, 9,977 spots into 46,592. So still not happy with where I am sitting overall, but happy enough with the jump. And if I can make another couple in the next couple of weeks, it'll be happy days, or happier days, I want to say.
Oh, happy days.
Yes, but I made the 3 trades this week with some last-minute changes as well once we had full teams announced and Will Day was off the table. I ended up trading out Dockers, as would have been known, Cam McKenzie and Alwyn Davey Jr., and brought in Tom Stewart, Samson Ryan, and Michelini. This meant I ended up holding Chesser and also Setters, who were originally in the trade-out plans, which was handy with Setters scoring, I think, in the 90s. Just felt better for a team balance, I guess, to axe McKenzie knowing that he was sub, and to potentially Ginby also not necessarily being the sub, but being subbed out, and as he was, and Setters, kind of knowing that he was going to be playing in the wet. Thought that would benefit him. But let's have a look at our head-to-head there, Damon. In terms of the wins, you have 4 wins. I have just the 1, so you're ahead there. And you have a 173-point differential, I guess, up 173 points as well. So looking good for you.
Yeah, not too bad. No, good start. But I must say, previous weeks it has been a little bit hollow. With only really one of us making ground in the ranking stakes. So I must say that I am happy that you yourself, Liam, as well, have catapulted up the ranks. So fingers crossed it continues for us both. And even though I do hold this, the dominance, I guess, in our sort of overall head-to-head, weekly head-to-head, I think it potentially evens out when it comes to our I'm the captain head-to-head. So we'll have to wait and see potentially. But I think maybe you've got the wood on me again. But we won't ruin it. But we'll see.
Yes, no, I'm happy. I'm coming back. It's feeling a little bit more even now. But let's see. Not even, but I'm catching up a little bit, hopefully. But let's see what happens. Now, let's delve into some trades some injuries, some underperformers. We've got some trades to look at in The Price is Right.
Show me the money.
Does that make you feel good just to say that? What you gonna do, Derek? Show me the money!
For those tuning in for the first time, The Price is Right is the segment where we discuss potential trades and trade targets from week to week, or whether a specific player in question should even be traded at all. But before we chat about those trade options this week, it's actually kind of exciting. We've had our first set of DPP changes. And I think it was over 40 players, getting some added flexibility.
Yeah.
So we won't run through them all because you can just have a look for them. But we might quickly touch on the most relevant ones. And Damon, do you want to start off with the now defender forwards?
Yes, the now defender forwards. So they're probably the most relevant, especially these first two names. And it is, no surprise, the Cheezel himself, the big Harry Cheezel, alongside his teammate in Jack Zeeble, Jay-Z, Josh Bruce, and Cooper Hamilton, the youngster, also getting defender forward eligibility.
Yeah, and I think it'll be juicy as well because I think Seamus Mitchell, who's coming up, is also a defender forward. So if
Super
you
handy.
can trade him in, you'll have in the opposite spot, you'll be able to have a nice little switcheroo as well, which is good. Moving on to the defender midfielders, we've got none other than Jordan Dawson headlining there, Darcy Wilmot, the suspended Will Day, Lockie Whitfield, Nasiah Wanganeen Malira, and Hunter Clark all getting defender and midfield eligibility.
Very nice. And in terms of forward and midfield DPP additions, we have youngster, and this is a surprise actually because I didn't even factor him in. And he's a guy that you have, Liam, and it is Will Phillips, and that's going to provide a bit of flexibility that a lot of people didn't bargain for. So love that. And next on the list, we have Matt Roberts, the youngster, the most traded in player, the most traded in cash cow of this round. So again, combined with their powers combined.
I am Captain Planet. Captain Planet.
Apologies for that. Just went off on a tangent, as I never do. But third up, we have Cam McKenzie as well, who, unlike Matt Roberts, is going to be out of most people's sides. So unfortunately, what an absolute waste, because I didn't even think he would get forward eligibility either. So interesting there. But I guess for those people that want to keep him, he might turn the tables and be a bit of a pod. But yeah, he's right for the picking, which we will get into very shortly. But yeah, we've pretty much covered in terms of all those guys there. So Jay-Z, Sheezel, probably the most prominent names of the bunch. It's going to help those of us like myself, and I think you as well, Liam, in terms of those who started with a bit of a bare cupboard in a sense in defence, with only 1 to 2 primos. Now we can switch, the likes of Jay-Z and Sheezel both back there. So looking forward to doing that, maybe even as soon as this week.
Yes, I like it. And Dawson, Wilmot, and Day getting coverage as well with their defender midfielder lines with the likes of fellow other defender midfielders in Chessar, Ginby, and Constable, slowly making their way out of our sides as well. So it's good that we're getting to replenish, I guess, the
tops it up.
defender midfielders. And as you mentioned, the flexibility that Will Phillips will now provide is especially handy for those that didn't yet have a forward mid-swing activated. And Matt Roberts as a standout trade in cash cow option also provides that option. So it's nice if you can make sure you have them in opposite areas of the ground so you can move them around as needed.
Very nice. Well, let's delve into all things trades, the juiciest part of our weekly episodes. And first up, we have Going, Gone. And it starts with that man we just spoke of that got the midfield forward eligibility. And it is Cam McKenzie. He's priced at 263.3K, averaging a 59.4 with a break-even of, it's crept out to 89. So overall, he's made us 83K. So juicy enough for a bit of a culling, you could say. And luckily made his break even, hilariously enough, despite starting as a sub, because he ended up scoring 1 above his break even with a score of 14. But that's going to stick around in his rolling average for another couple of weeks and effectively hold his cash generation. So he needs to really score big to maintain his current price and bring that break even down to really sort of replenish and kickstart that cash generation. So even though it is handy, as we said, that he's got that forward DPP eligibility, it's probably time now to move him on at a point where it's probably his max price. So cash in.
Max price definitely for probably the next few weeks. He might eventually increase, but it's probably not not going to be super useful overall. Hard to see him getting up to that break even of 89, considering his average. Moving on, I've already traded him out when I heard that he was sub, so I definitely think it's worth moving him on. Moving on to the next guy on the list, and it is Ruben Ginby, mid defender eligible, 296.8k, averaging 71.2 with a break even of 81, and he has made us 125.5k in cash. And it's a bit sad because I feel like he probably showed the most, other than Sheasel, probably showed one of the most consistent capabilities of scoring.
Yeah.
So was subbed out on the weekend with a score of just 51, which brings down that average. But it did help him make up another 14.3k. But like Mackenzie, it has halted his cash gen. Well, his break even of 81 is achievable for him. His previous, considering that he has, scored around that mark, it is a bit of a gamble to hope he makes it, as he was subbed out. Looks a little bit banged up, I guess. So it may be time to move him on. Just, I guess, run with that 125.5k in cash.
Yeah, it's an absolute shame. I was looking to potentially hold him for as long as I could and probably be one of the last few cash cows to get rid of. But c'est la vie, c'est la vie. But I think, he's one of those players as well that he's probably down the list in terms of, I think if you look at his break even and what he could score potentially, I mean, provided he isn't named as a sub or subbed off again, because that'll obviously ruin any prospect of getting back to sort of kickstarting his cash gen. But after this week, if he can score 71, just going by SuperCoach Plus, he'll only drop 4.4k. And then in round 7, his break even will then go down to 47. And if he can maintain an average of 71, his cash gen will start to rise again by an extra 20, 30k, provided he maintains that average of 71 according to SuperCoach Plus. But yeah, I think timing is everything at SuperCoach, and it's probably come at a good time because there are other cash cows on the horizon to downgrade to.
Exactly. Agreed entirely. Moving on to the next option, and it is Anthony Caminiti, forward eligible, 229.9k, averaging 56 with a break even of 25, and he's already made 127.5 k in cash. So he is made his way, but he looks set to miss weeks. I mean, he's been referred straight to the tribunal after that nasty incident against the Pies, which left Nathan Murphy concussed. So I think it's looking at least 4 weeks, I'd say, for Caminiti. So obviously watch for the length of his suspension, but I'd probably be offloading him. I can't imagine it'll be less than 2 weeks. So besides that, with Membry also set to return, I think this week, his job security could be dwindling somewhat anyway. I'd take the 127.5k he has made you and run.
Yeah, he's not going to make much more anyway upon return. I mean, he's only projected to go up another 20k maybe over the next 3 weeks that he plays. So, and by the time he returns, who knows if he's out for 4 weeks. I mean, it's going to be hard to break back into that side, as you mentioned, with Membry coming back. So, yeah, he might have to do his time in the VFL. But let's move on to the next category, and it is on the chopping block, and we're kicking it off with Oscar Baker of the Dogs. He's priced at 252.1k, averaging a 58.6 with a break-even of 46. And so far, he's made us 128.2k, so quite juicy. Finds himself in this part of the list because while his break-even is quickly approaching his average, that does indicate his cash generation is slowing. His 3-round average of 65 is almost 20 points above his break-even, but is really held up by his score of 95 against the Lions. So, a bit of a falsehood there. But however, due to his break-even, still relatively low, is relatively low and achievable. It means there is less urgency to cash him in ahead of, say, Jimby and Mackenzie, who we spoke of earlier. So I guess, again, it comes down to timing. Timing is everything. There are a few cash cows on the bubble this week, which we will touch on in the next category and get them in. So, yeah, I mean, you've got to weigh up the potential upside in terms of cash made by the new cash cows you bring in, as opposed to how much cash that Oscar Baker has left to make. And it's not too much more, I think, over the next few weeks, unless he has an absolute blinder, which going over his previous scores, apart from maybe 1 week, I think time is up for Oscar Baker.
And sometimes it's worth like knowing, like as you said, you might be holding him to make another 10K. And the risk is that he doesn't make that. The risk is he doesn't make his break even. He decreases in cash a little bit. Sometimes it's worth just moving a player on, even if it may seem slightly early. In this case, I don't think it's early, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. Moving on to another option that you could consider trading out. I had to play around with the trade assist option, and it was one of the players that it suggested I should trade out. And it is Cade Chandler. Yeah, very strange.
Wow.
Forward eligible for Melbourne, 279.4K, averaging 73.8 with a break even of 47. And he has already made you 155.5K if you had him from his first price rise. And like Baker before him, his break even is approaching his average, but it's also important to look at his 3-round average for his most recent form, which is 68.3, which is still well up on his 47 break even, and he is projected to rise another 10 to 12K if he can maintain his average. Also positively, he hasn't scored below 47, but his scoring is trending down slightly with scores of 90, 59, and 56 in his last 3. One thing that I think is important to probably consider is his big scores have come at the MCG where he's got the space, bigger ground, and he plays at the MCG, I think, definitely next for this round, and I think potentially the round after as well. So it could be one to watch, I guess. I wouldn't be trading him necessarily if you don't need to. I think he can eke out a decent enough score. But if you are absolutely desperate need of cash in a rookie to find an upgrade, he's not a bad option. But I'd probably be looking as him as sort of 3rd or 4th in line. If you have a McKenzie, it'd probably be McKenzie, Jinby, Caminiti, and Baker for mine before Chandler, if you had all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, spot on there. Let's move on to the next category, and it is these juicy cash cows on the bubble. Get them in. So we have Matt Roberts from Sydney, who has newly found his midfield forward eligibility, and he's priced at 129.8K, averaging a 33.5 with a break even of -22, and he's gone up in price only 5.9K, despite the fact that he had a bit of a blinder on the weekend. He's played 4 of the 5 games in 2023, 3 of which he has started as sub, which resulted in scores of 27, 10, and 4. And that saw his price drop 13.6K from his starting price of 123.9. So he still comes in at a very affordable price, despite that mammoth 93 in perspective on the weekend. But, it is the first game that he started in, and with that newly added forward midfield DPP adds a bit of an extra string to the bow. If he is named again as a starter, he's definitely one to jump on, given he has that -22 break even, and presents as a legitimate downgrade option at just 129.8, which is only, hilariously enough, only 5.9K above his starting price, despite that 93 that he scored. So
just nuts.
It's a blessing in disguise, almost. The fact that he was started as sub for so long, and he showed his wares now as the starting player, so everyone can jump on him. Like, imagine if he started and he was, averaging 50, 60 odd, it'd be hard to get him in. He'd be up, sort of 170, 180K mark, and we'd have to spend up to get him, but perfect timing.
Yep, agreed. Next up, we've got Matty Johnson, mid-eligible from Freo, 139K, averaging 35. 30. Just it's weird talking about players as get-in options when they're averaging 35. A break even
there's more.
-1. Yeah, exactly. And he's already gone up 15.1K. So yeah, it's all looking good for the Matty Johnson with an average of 35, and he's gone up by 15.1K. Why have we got him here?
But wait, there's more.
Well, he has started a sub in his first 2 games, scoring 24 and 14, but he has made his way into the starting 22 on the weekend and scored a 67 against the Suns. His -1 break even will continue to fall, you'd expect, if he can continue his scoring around that 60 mark, especially given the first 2 sub-affected scores drop out of his price cycle over the next 2 weeks. So much like Roberts, the sub scores have been an absolute blessing in disguise. They keep him at a reasonable price, so we can get him in if we are in need of a downgrade option as well.
Like it. Definitely we'll be looking at him. Another guy that I'll be looking at closely this week is Jack Sinclair. And he's priced at 546.5k, averaging a 98.8 with a break-even of 113. So he does come in at a discount of 79.8k on his starting price after losing another 30.5k on the weekend. So Sinclair is a relative bargain, good old Sinks. Now, you may question why he's in the get him in section when his break-even is above his season average and his 3-round average. And the reason is his matchup against my mob in the Baggers. So his most recent score against the Baggers was a big 150 at Marvel. And 2 of his 4 most recent scores were 124 and 113. So on top of that, Carlton also give away the second most points to wing defenders. So even with a break-even of 113, it's a very favourable matchup, and he could be in for a relatively big score on the weekend.
Definitely one to consider, I think. Definitely one to consider. I
think he's actually a bit of a pod as well from memory.
I think he's in about 7 or 8% of teams off memory.
7% of teams, 7. So yeah, not too bad. I mean, if you are weighing up primos and you think he's going to go half decently this week, there's one reason to sort of get him in, I guess, is going to give you a leg up over the rest of the competition. 93% that don't have him. So something to factor in.
Yep, I don't mind it. One I'm definitely considering this week to help bolster the defense. Moving on to the next option, it is Took Miller, 624.2k, averaging 115.4 with a break-even of 112. And the running man, like Sinclair, his break-even and average might not necessarily necessitate getting him in this round, but his matchup suggests it may be worth it. He faces North, who he historically averages very well against, including 104, 167, and 131 in his last 3 games against them. He then also comes up against Richmond, who have it's a weird one. I think we all are very interested in this Richmond matchup. Doesn't seem as though there's any real correlation between them giving up big scores to midfielders. But they just don't have the tag that there's no tag risk, I guess. So I think that's why we're all kind of a little bit more, a little less wary of them. But he has also historically good scores against them in his last 3, with a 135, a 153, and a 124. He has toughened up in every game this season as well, and the last 2 has shown he still has a decent enough ceiling with scores of 122 and 127. So yeah, could be right for the picking. If you're in need of a midfielder.
Yeah, I like it. He's lost a little bit of cash as well across the journey, 38.2k. So I like it. Knowing what he can produce, if he can get back to those heights, where it's pretty much captaincy scores week in, week out, absolutely jump on him. But a little bit of a pot option, perhaps, is Caleb Sarong. He's priced at 573.7k, averaging a 112.6 with a break-even of 86. And yes, he is only sitting in 3% of teams. So you could say he's a definite pod, but has lit up the scoring this season, dropping below 100 on just one occasion in round 1 for a score of 70. And since then, he has gone 101, 146, 100 on the dot, and 146. So he's a bit of a smoky and not one for the faint heart, but Sarong could be a nice little pod to sort of get you ahead of the pack, as it were.
Yeah.
Being that, that sort of a minute ownership.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind jumping on someone like him. Decent price. Reminds me of sort of a Parish of a couple of years ago in that sense. In terms of scoring, like really just started scoring really well. Bit of a breakout, low price. If you can jump on him now, it might help you rise up the rankings as well. As a bit of a pod over the opposition. I don't mind it. I don't mind the pick. But moving on to another pod option.
Ooh.
Now this one feels a little bit weirder. It is Callum Wilkie, 503.7k, averaging 101.8 and a break even of 18. Now he hasn't historically been very SuperCoach relevant, but with his best average, especially with his best average coming last season, which was an 82.5, but he is nothing if not consistent, having played 22 games in each season so far, except 2020, where he played just the 17, but obviously the reduced season there. His scoring has really gone under the radar, gone to another level as well. And I think he's going under the radar because in the last 3 weeks, his scores read 104, 117, and 156. His high scoring recent weeks is really coming off the back of his intercept game as well. He's averaging 4.4 intercept marks a game, which is rated as elite for his position, and good kick to handball ratio as well, and a very strong kicking efficiency as well. All SuperCoach Gold. He's a much bigger risk. He sits in just unsurprisingly 0.4% of teams, and he does come with a low break even, but is high risk without that historical backing to pick him up. Without that historical backing for him. So I don't know if I'd advise going for it, but I'd love to do it. Like, I feel like it'd be a fun ride, or a terrible ride.
We always use that reference to Austin Powers when he's playing blackjack, and he's like, I also like to live dangerously, and he's literally going to lose blackjack. Like he can't have a hand of 21, and he's like, he has to hit, and he's like, I stay.
Well, I won't lie to you. Cards are not my bag, baby.
So that's literally what it is. Like it's impossible to jump on him and think that he's going to be the biggest breakout contender, considering the average. But having said that, I do like it. I do like it. I do like to live dangerously.
Look, I'd prefer getting on a Sarong rather than a Wilkie, if I was looking at the two. But there's something enticing about it. Like, I mean, we've got to consider. I mean, obviously, St Kilda lost on the weekend, and he still managed a score of, I think, 156. But I don't know. He's been propped up well these past 3 weeks. 13 marks, 11 marks, and 11 marks, and even prior to that, 9 marks against the Dogs. But that was his lowest score of 51. But yeah, maybe there's something in it. Maybe. I don't know. Just something to consider for those that like pods. Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of people have been considering, the likes of Brendan Cox, Dane Rampy, guys that historically haven't scored well. So here's another name out there, because some people may see his high scores and be like, oh, maybe there's something to it. But so he's definitely one to touch on. I think he's one to touch on. I think probably comes a little bit differently because it looks like the role is really suiting his scoring. Yeah. I think that's something to consider. The game plan, that there's a logic to it. Yeah. Like it. Well, seeing as I want to roll in terms of pods and whatnot, well, let's end with another one. And it is someone more familiar. It is a top scenario. Someone that's circling for chips. And it is Jake the Seagull Lloyd. He's priced at 533.9K, averaging a 106.8 with a break even of 70. Mind you, Ash is probably like downstairs thinking, what the hell? Is he just like an Avery upstairs? Yes, I do have an Avery of Jake Lloyd's. So yes, he is a name from years gone by. And so the question begs, is the Seagull back? So he scores for 2023 read 100, 102, 93, 120, and a 119. So he's back to taking kick-ins as well, which is most pleasingly sitting behind Blakey as the number 2 for most kick-ins for the Swans. And the cherry on top is he has also played on from all but one for the season. So geez, we like he knows what the points are at. He knows all too well. Wouldn't surprise you if he's got himself in his own SuperCoach team. Classic Jakey. Historically, he has a pedigree to finish as a top 8 defender, no doubt. But does he have what it takes to do it again in 2023? And with an ownership of just 5.5%, he's one to consider for the pod hunters out there. I think out of all those that we spoke of, it's just that romanticism almost to go back to the well, as it were, and pick Jakey Lloyd again. Just the fun of it. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Yeah. I feel like there's pedigree. Like he's got the pedigree. He's got the historical backing. Yeah. Yeah. The price is good as well. Imagine having him and Dacos, the 2 Seagulls. Oh, the 2. You'd run out of chips. Like you'd need to just go down to the freezer section, your local Woolies, Coles, and just rock up to the counter with a trolley full of bags of chips, and the attendant's just like, what are you doing? Do you own a fish and chip shop? No, I just own Jake Lloyd and I own Nicky Dacos, the 2 biggest Seagulls out. Like that episode of The Simpsons where they get the elephant and it's like the elephant eats so much.
Animals are a lot like people, Mrs. Simpson. Some of them act badly because they've had a hard life or have been mistreated. But, like people, some of them are just jerks. Stop that, Mr. Simpson.
It's just exactly like that. Just like that.
Anyway, I don't mind Jake Lloyd. Don't mind him as a bit of a pod as well. On the bubble, though, let's look at some rookies who are right in line for their cash rises this week. Let's kick off with Ned Moyle, 123.9K, ruck eligible, averaging 49.5 with a break even of a minus 27. Now, he has played another game as a solo ruck after Jared Witts missed again with soreness. Something that he did suffer in the round 3 win against the Cats. Now, Moyle hasn't really set the world on fire with his scores, with just a 35 and a 64. But I guess with the spectre of Witts sitting in, it's a weird one because obviously Witts is the number one ruck. But we just don't know what, is he going to return? Is he not going to return? What's going to happen? It's kind of hard to bring in Ned Moyle without knowing much about Witts, and we'll touch on him a bit later in the episode. But yeah, tough one there. I don't necessarily think it's worth wasting a trade on him with other rookies on the horizon. So I think he's one to avoid at this stage, but just unfortunate, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. Another rookie on the bubble is Dylan Williams. He's priced at 123.9K as a forward, averaging a 57.5 with a break-even of negative 43. Has played his second game for the Power, and despite being listed as a forward, he's actually playing as a defender where he has shown decent enough scoring with scores of 64 and 51. Now, it's really hard to know his true job security, I think, at this stage. Fantasia's on the injury list, but yeah, is he going to be thrown forward or maybe stay down back? I'm not too sure who is out of the side that, or is on the cusp that could really sort of take over his role and return and, you know, make him a bit more expendable. So with that, I think I'm a little less secure in bringing him into my side. But yeah, each their own.
Agreed. I don't mind it. I think I'd look to the guys we mentioned earlier in the episode in Johnson and what's his name, Roberts, ahead of probably any of these guys at this stage. But yeah, let's move on to the next one, and it is Bailey Humphrey from the Suns, 184.8K, mid forward eligible, averaging 38.6 with a break even of 30. And you can't fault his consistency. He's got a score of 39 and a 38, but his forward role isn't going to be super conducive to scoring. Sorry, that is an average of 38.5, not 38.6. It was a typo on my part. So as we can see this year, hopefully, maybe it's something to consider. The forward role, isn't going to be conducive to scoring, unfortunately, and I don't think we'll see much more in terms of an uptick in scoring for him at this stage. He comes in at that 184.8K price, very high as well. Probably not much of a downgrade option, not giving you bulk cash. He was obviously a high draftee and has that very high break even of 30. I think he'll be one for the future, but not for the now, unfortunately. So do not bring him in.
Yep, 100% on board with that. Let's move across to the weight category, and there's a name here that you could potentially bring in. You could wait.
Yeah.
Let's delve into why. So it is Stephen Canelio, Cogs, priced at 485.6K, averaging a 96.2 with a break-even of 108. So he has dropped in price by 72.1K from the start of the year. So he is priced at an absolute bargain at the moment. But we've also seen the variability in his scoring with big highs of 143 and low lows of 58 and 71. Now, he's one you could get in this week, as I said, as his break-even is achievable, but it's his upcoming fixture that suggests you could hold if you're eyeing off another primo like Sinclair, for example. He does face the Lions this week, who are one of the hardest teams to score against for midfielders, and then Sydney, who are also very stingy. He is projected to drop another 6K on the weekend if he does score around about 95, bottoming out of 47.9K, making him ripe for the picking. So, that should be 479K. Yep, sorry, it's another typo. Jeez, everyone's like, wow, that's going to absolutely...
That's
talking about bargains. Get down there and get a pack of mixed lollies as well when you buy him. But yeah, he's going to be absolutely right for the picking. So, I mean, like I said, you could go for him this week, or you can maybe hold off. I think one thing that held him back on the weekend from a high score, because he did end up eclipsing 30-odd disposals. Enough, I think it was his disposal efficiency again held him back, and really is putting a bit of a cap on his scoring ceiling. So annoying for those who already own him. But something to keep in mind potentially is if you want to roll the dice and wait another week, if you've got other issues to deal with, like a Tom Green, for example, if you wanted to get rid of him, which you probably shouldn't, but if you've got other holes that you have to deal with, you could sort of address those before getting cogs. But what about other rookies on the horizon, Liam?
Yes, there's a few on the horizon now, thankfully. We've got Aaron Cadman, who played his first game on the weekend. We've got Halloran from the Giants as well. Ned Long from Hawthorn, Sam Sturt, Seamus Mitchell, Will Gould, Corey Warner, and Corey Wagner as well.
Jesus,
the Corey's there. The Corey hotline.
The Corey hotline, exactly right.
Hi, you've reached the Corey hotline, $4.95 a minute. Here are some words that rhyme with Corey. Glory, story, allegory, Montessori.
Very good. I like that. Simpsons reference for those of you who are listening and tuning in and have no idea what you're talking about. It's always Simpsons. Always Simpson. Just remember that. Fall back on that. But also Seamus Mitchell. And there's a bit of a funny story behind this. We won't delve into the whole thing, but as you would have seen, Liam and myself were avid collectors of select AFL footy cards, and I ended up getting duplicates of Seamus Mitchell going back, I think it was last year, in one of releases, and I was like, who is this bloke named Seamus? And it's just hilarious now that he's SuperCoach relevant, and now we know who he is. And hopefully that drives up the value of my cards so I can hunt them onto Hawthorn collectors out there, because I've still got him, and he could be a superstar. So funny.
Yes.
But Liam, let's delve into just quickly. I mean, it is probably one of the big talking points, and we do like to do this now from week to week. Just touch on off the back of talking about trade in, trade out candidates, but it is what to do with Jared Whitson. I will throw it across to you first and foremost. Those people who own him, do they punt him or do they stick fat and hold the door when it comes to Jared Whitson?
Yeah, it's a big concern considering he's missing again because of soreness. And it sounds as though he's been pulling up sore in matches and the Suns just don't want to risk him. So there's a quote from Stewie Dew about Jared Whitson, and he said some games he's felt really good and other games he's worked really hard to get through it. And then he also said it's a long year. We won't risk him. So I think their intention is to sort of hold him out, give him a rest until he's right to go. The problem is with that for us is, I mean, he'd probably be the wrong side of 30 for SuperCoach scorers as well, which is probably concerning as a ruckman. If he's pulling up sore and they are resting him as a result, does that become something that happens throughout the year? Because it sounds as though it's something that's not necessarily just recent. It sounds like it might have been more consistent through preseason as well. So, I mean, it just depends, I guess, on how many trades you've used. If you've had no issues and you've got heaps of trades, you could potentially move him on, get him across to a Tim English, who, I mean, hasn't got a great injury history either. But you could look to move him on if you really wanted. But I'd probably be looking more to get someone in your R3 for cover, like a Samson Ryan. I mean, you could go on Ned Moyle, because if Witz is going to miss, Ned Moyle's going to play.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably worth holding him for now, and I'd probably be looking more so towards getting an R3 or someone that you can at least use as an R3 to cover for him, like Samson Ryan or Ned Moyle.
Yep. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head right there. It's really problematic because it's so hard to read into, given the club is saying that it's just general soreness as opposed to a specific injury, which is super frustrating, as there's no real clarity as to how long this will keep him out for, or if it'll persist, like you said, or if it's just, now it's going to end. They've given him a couple of weeks off and now he's ready and raring to get back into things. But if I was in that situation, I think I'd be prioritizing getting in Samson Ryan. If it were me, I would have done this last week before, when it was announced that he's going to potentially take on the ruck mantle, or at least share it, as we saw on the weekend. And just because his ruck forward DPP, which we emphasized last week, the importance of, it's important for these very moments where ruckmen are out for the short term. And it saves you eating a donut or having to use a trade for a 1 week injury. And especially, imagine if this happens down the track, not so much to Wits, but say like another ruckman across SuperCoach finals. Like you're pretty much cooked, because then you're having to rely on burning a trade because you've got no DPP swings, you've got no cover, because presumably a lot of people have Madden, unless of course they got the other rat R2 Galea, which by that stage he should well and truly be out of your side, but as he should be now. But I think yeah, if you're in this situation now, I think, try and bring in as a bit of a DPP swing and persist. And then if it comes out, which if is the case, if they come out and say that he's got an injury now, like that's an absolute slap in the face if the Suns do that now. But it is what it is. And I think, try and get cover if you can.
Yeah, the other concern I think I have is, does it become like a, what's his name, Mumford style thing with with GWS a couple of years ago, where he kind of played a few weeks, then would have a rest, played a few weeks, then would have a rest. If he isn't able to sort of get through the year. I mean, this is all speculation. There's nothing to suggest that this is the case. It's kind of just trying to read into what Stuart Dew has said and get some sort of idea, but it's hard to know. I think definitely looking for an R3 option is probably the best thing you can do right now.
Yep. And like it might work as well at the very least. Now they've given Ned Moyle a bit of a crack. Who knows? He may share the ruck with Moyle staying in the team just to give him a bit of an ease back into footy. So that might be an option as well, which isn't ideal for owners, but I mean, it's better than him not playing. Just wait and see what happens there. But Liam, let's move on to the next segment. And it is, I will pass the baton to you yet again, because it is called, Liam,
I'm the captain now.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Yes, and I'm the captain now. We chat about the VC and C options that we've all got for the upcoming round of SuperCoach. And as always, we look into the data and we find the best options that you can consider. Now, let's start off with the vice captaincy options, Damon, and I'll let you kick them off.
Okay, thank you, Captain. Thank you, Captain, my captain. And you are the captain, of course, because you ended up picking the higher captain scorer. So we'll dive into that very shortly. But first up, as the vice captain option is Tim English. He faces Freo on Friday at 8:10 p.m. at Optus Stadium. Has an average of 97 in his last 4 against the Dockers with scores of 86, 69, 143 and 90. And he's currently averaging a whopping 139.2 for the season, but faces Freo, who are the hardest team for opposition rucks to score against. So could this be the week he drops and Hodor shuts him down by holding the door? So hopefully he does. At least for those of you who don't have English, because he needs to borrow a term, calm it down. He just needs to calm it down. Because he's just losing his shit, I think. Calm down, Tim English, and just have a bit of a breather, mate.
Yeah, maybe Shrek will say, not in my swamp this week.
What are you doing in my
Very
swamp?
good.
But anyway, let's move on to to his teammate, Marcus Bontempelli. And this obviously in that same game, has an average of 122 in his last 4 against the Dockers, with scores of 100, 149, 107 and 132. And he's also scored 122 and 145 in his last 2 matches. So he is running hot. Not much more to say.
Yep, that's it. Hot to trot. That's him. That's Bont. Consider him. Next up, we have Sean Darcy, who faces the Doggies on Friday at 8:10. Again, same game. Has an average of 86.5 in his last 4 games against the Dogs with scores of 59, 112, 113 and 62. Now, the Dogs are also the 3rd hardest team for rucks to score against, so could be in for a bit of a downer considering his historical form against them too. So it's going to be interesting. Having said that, with English, with Freo being, the hardest team for opposition rucks to score against, is it just going to be like a 0-0 draw between English and Darcy? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Surely one has to come out on top.
Yeah, or do both score well? Do both score not well?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, it might be a bit of a downer for both.
Not what I want to see. Not what I want to see. Let's move on to the next option, and it is Josh Kelly against Brisbane on Saturday at 4:35 p.m. at Manuka Oval. Has an average of 102.5 in his past 4 games against the Lions, with scores of 131, 62, 122 and 95. So some decent scores, nothing to write home about necessarily there, but another VC option for you.
Yep. And another VC option is in this same game as well. And it's other side of the fence. It is Lockie Neal. Has an average of 130.75 in his last 4 games against the Giants, with scores of 164, 121, 87 and 151. Worked his way back into form of the weekend with a mammoth 176, albeit against North Melbourne, but He he was everywhere. Best on ground, just up there with old Joey Danaher for best on ground honours there, but probably takes the cake there because he was instrumental in the win, especially early on. Great player. Consider him if you have him. If you've held fat, you deserve to be rewarded because a lot of people traded him out as well early days. So if you still have him, consider him. Absolutely.
Yep, definitely. I don't mind that option. Next up, we've got Tommy Stewart against Sydney Saturday at 7:25 in his first game this year at GMHBA Stadium. And he has an average of 99.25 in his last 4 against the Swans with scores of 103, 115, 105, and 74. Now, off memory, I don't think any of those are at GMHBA.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are. So he scores very well when he gets to play at GMHBA, so could be in for a monster score. I will quickly, if you want to jump into the next one, I'll look up his
he has an
GMHBA.
SCG the past 2, and then the other one was Hobart Stadium. What's HBS?
HBS? Yeah, maybe Hobart.
Unless GMHBA changed their name. Canadian Park changed their name to something else, which they do every second year, so it might have been. But I'll jump into the next, although it is the next category, of course, is captaincy option. So Jordan Dawson is the first one up, faces the Hawks on Sunday at 1:10 p.m. at UTAS Stadium. Has an average of 83.75 in his last 4 games against the Hawks with scores of 80, 73, 78, and 104. But we all know what he's done in the past couple of games. So against some soft opposition, to put it lightly, in the Hawks, could he be in for another blinder? McGuinness, though, could he be one to tag? Maybe. We've been calling out for McGuinness to tag people, and Sammy Mitchell hasn't really done it. So is this the game
the week
where they, or do they just pay attention to Laird instead?
Nah,
as a Laird owner.
Do it.
Yeah, surely.
Come on, Sammy.
Go for Jordan Dawson, as we both say, as non-owners. But yeah. Any clarification there, Liam? You've been scrounging the data there?
Yes. I'm just having a look at his most recent scores at GMHBA. And he's got a 106, a 48, a 112, 174, 122. So yeah, 187 against Freo. Some big scores at GMHBA for Tom Stewart.
Nice. I like it.
But yeah, let's move on to the next bloke, and that is Rory Laird, obviously against Hawthorn as well. He has an average of 129 in his last 4 against the Hawks with scores of 125, 111, 178, and 102. Very, very good scoring there. But again, the McGuinness tag, does it come into effect? Does it go to Laird or does it go to Dawson?
Yeah, interesting as well. It's hard as well because Sunday games, you're going to have to almost roll the dice on as a captaincy option as opposed to VC. But maybe you use them as a VC if you've got someone like a Tookie Miller potentially with a later game, which we'll get into shortly. But next up, we have Jack Sinclair against Carlton on Sunday at 3:20 p.m. at Marvel Stadium. Has an average of 110.25 in his last 4 games against the Blues with scores of 150, 89, 95, and 107. And Carlton also give away as we mentioned earlier, the second most points to opposition/wing defenders. So, it's going to be interesting to see if you can actually score around about that mark. But yeah, the Saints, no question about it, they perform well at Marvel Stadium as well. So a couple of sort of feathers in the cap there for Sinclair as a captaincy option.
Yes, I agree. Moving on to the next game, and this is one of those weird rounds. We've got Tuesday games, so it's very spread out in terms of games. So next up, we've got Tookie Miller against North Melbourne on Sunday at 4:40 p.m. at Heritage Bank Stadium. Must be up in
Tassie?
Actually, is it Tassie or is it in Gold Coast somewhere?
Apparently. Yeah, it's Gold Coast.
I think it's Metricon.
That's what it is. Yep, gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So Took Miller has an average of 131.25 in his last 4 games against the Roos, with scores of 167, 104, 131, and 123. So very nice scoring pedigree there. And to top it all off, North also give away the most points to opposition inside midfielders. So Tookie Miller, get on him.
Oh, absolute field day. He's gonna feast absolutely feast. But next up, we have Luke Davies-Uniacke, LDU, UDL, whatever you want to call him, in that same game. Has an average of 99.5 in his last 4 games against the Suns with scores of 109, 95, 78, and 116. And part of the reason why we've listed him here is the Suns give away the 4th most points to opposition inside midfielders. So if it's an all-out attack type game, he could benefit in that respect. So look at him as a bit of a maybe a point of difference type option.
Yes. Now let's move on to the Monday. 7:20 MCG against Richmond. We've got Clarry Oliver, the pink sweaty pig himself. He has an average of 122.5 in his last 4 games against the Tigers, with scores of 168, 115, 96, and 111. So could be in for a big score here. He doesn't mind playing there. And I think as well, potentially coming off a loss, could be absolutely ready and raring to go. Get back onto the winners list. So I don't mind the look of a Clarry Oliver if you have him.
Yep, absolutely. Next up, we have his teammate in Brodie Grundy. Has an average of 127.25 in his last 4 games against the Tigs with scores of 140, 115, 137, and 117. So he should ruck alone unless Gawn comes back into the side. And if he rucks alone, he's going to be in for a massive one, as Richmond, as we all know, are forced to utilise the inexperienced duo of Miller and Ryan. So, it's going to be interesting. Having said that, though, Grundy, I'm surprised he scored as well as he did on the weekend because he was given an absolute bath by Phillips and Draper, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was surprised by his scoring. I think around the ground, it was a little bit interesting. I think Phillips probably stuck to him a little bit more, but when he wasn't playing forward, and I feel like Grundy and Draper kind of didn't pay each other too much respect in terms of they would run off each other and not kind of play too defensively. So it probably benefited him there. But interesting. I think it would depend on Gawn, really. Is Gawn back? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We'll wait and see. But anyway, let's move on to the Tuesday game. I was going to say the Sunday game because that's normally the last game of the round. But no, Tuesday, 3:20 MCG, Anzac Day, Nick Dacos against Marmob in the Dons. Now, he's got a 75 average in his 2 games against the Dons, both last season, with a 71 and 79. So not a great deal to report on there, but we all know what form he has been in and a big occasion. Now, I've thought about this a little bit, and I wonder whether the Dons play a Caldwell on him. So Caldwell's been playing half forward, could make him a little bit more accountable and sort of play that tagging role. We know he tagged, obviously, who was it last year?
Neal?
Lachie Neal to great effect. Could do, and I think took Miller as well. So could do the similar thing to Nick Dacos potentially. So something to consider. I don't know whether it will happen or not. But yeah,
I like that.
Something just to consider. Yeah.
Yeah. Surely someone's going to try and at least, apart from, Hinkley tried to do it with, what's his name, Jones, and just was never going to be the good matchup. But yeah, that's probably a like for like. Especially considering that he ran with Tookie Miller and he's the running man for a reason.
Exactly.
His endurance is very high. Nick Dacos obviously loves to run and receive the ball down the field in the chain of, possessions, but yeah, it could work well. I think there's a like for like sort of weakness up against strength, or strength against strength. So it's going to be interesting to see how the cards fall there. But finishing off the rounding out our captaincy options here is Darcy Parish in that same game, obviously, and loves playing the Pies and Anzac Day. He relishes Anzac Days, I think.
He does.
He's won an Anzac Day medal, hasn't he?
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Has an average of 107.75 in his last 4 games against the Pies with scores of 133, a big 162, and then tempered by 74 and 62 as we go further back when he was playing probably less time in the midfield. But yeah, he is one to factor in if you do have him or looking to bring him, conversely, into your side. So Liam, shall we jump into our, and just to round it out as to the reason you're wearing the captain's hat, for those regular listeners and viewers, we all know what it means, but I'll hand the baton to you. What does it mean? Rub my face.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Let's jump into our captaincy head to head. I've had a little bit of form here with my 3rd win on the trot, which was nuts. With English Outscoring, you had Dacos by just 11 points. So it was very close, very close. I was a bit nervous. It's pushed me into the lead with because this is the only thing I've got going for me at the minute. It's pushed me into the lead with 3 wins and 1 loss, and you obviously, Damon, conversely 1 win with 3 losses, and the point differential of 49 points in my favour at this stage. So as we know the rules, Damon, you're the first pick this week. So who's it going to be?
Yes. Well, first, I must say that we both chose a half-decent option on the weekend in terms of captaincy scores. So not too displeased, even though you did, of course, beat me. But hopefully our listeners and viewers are appreciating our form. And anyone that has these sort of players, hopefully you're benefiting from it, because I reckon you're probably benefiting more than our actual captaincy and VC picks with guys in our teams.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I think it'd be reckless of me to select anyone other than took the running man Miller, given his 131.25 average against the Roos, combined with his, first and foremost, his form on the weekend, and the fact that North give away the most points to opposition inside mids. Aside from him, there are a couple of nice options. I'm not going to mention them because I might give you ideas. Yeah, he is by far, for me, the standout option. What about yourself, Liam?
I don't know. To be honest. I actually don't know.
I'm glad I didn't mention any names.
Haven't thought of anyone particularly. The only one that I kind of stands out to me is probably Clayton Oliver, and I don't know why.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to go him.
Yep.
Just no real reason. Just going to go Clayton Oliver.
Yep,
I think he's a decent option for those that have him. I mean, I'd like to go a Parrish just because he loves Anzac Day. But I don't think he's in enough teams, so I feel like it's a bit pod. I'm going to go Clarry.
And I must make mention as well, you probably recall this time last week, I was weighing up between, I had Dacos, Laird, and Neil. And I said, I bet you the one that I go for is going to score the least of the 3.
Yeah.
You know what happened? Even though he scored quite half decently, that happened. He scored 128, Laird scored 135, and Neil, he ended up scoring, what was it? 176. Yeah. Classic. So hopefully someone I reckon don't choose my option. Probably go for your option. But yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Now, Liam, we would normally delve into the next segment, which is of course called
Hey, I got to know.
That's it. Exactly. That's it. But we are, as we have done with our previous guest in SuperCoach Masters, we're reserving this segment for our catch-up collab chat with Shorty. So yeah, jump across to that. We will be whacking that up on YouTube. And yeah, if you want to check out our collaboration and listen to some of the questions that we'll be answering, and a bit of banter, a bit of everything else mixed in between, feel free to jump across to that. So let's move on to, before we round things out, just touch on how things are falling, how the cards are falling in our SuperCoach public group, our Patreon exclusive group, and of course our Patreon exclusive SuperCoach Edge Cash League. So Liam, I'll pass this on to you.
Let's jump into the SuperCoach Edge Cup public group first. And the leader for the second week in a row is Rehab with their team Colin Good. Scored 2,322, nice. Total score of 11,221, very nice. And an overall rank of 157, which was up 62 spots. Wow. So very, very good there. And the top scorer for the week was Mark with his team Silver Pigeon with a huge score of 2,456, and he finished 95th for the round.
Gee whiz, done very well there. For our Patreon exclusive group, the leader is T, once again, of Prostitutes Inc. With a round score of 2,302 and total score of 10,995. And as I said, T was also the top scorer, not only the last round, but this round as well. So a bit of a double serving of well done, a couple of double scooping there for you on your SuperCoach Edge cone, as it were, proverbially.
Yes, and in terms of our SuperCoach Patreon exclusive cash league, the results looked to something not a little bit, they just looked exactly like this. Popper Ball FC was defeated by DJ Trade a Lot. Look at go. Black on White was defeated by Ton 618. Now that was a big matchup. I'm pretty sure that was first versus second. So Matt with Ton 618 got up which is good for him. Church of Parish defeated by the Sharpshooters. I sit on 0 wins still. I'll talk about that a bit later. Tankers defeated by Carps Crushers with a nice score of 2,300. And Sharpshooters, admittedly, I lost to the person that scored the highest. So I am going to sit with that.
there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. Let you fall back on that.
I'm going to, most certainly sit with that in mind. So we'll look at the ladder, and we have Matthew Ton. Yeah, we will. Matthew with his team Ton 618. He is in top spot. He's gone up. Black on white. Scott Arthur. He moved down 1 spot. So that matchup was very important. Now Brett, the Sharpshooters, who defeated me, he's gone up 1 spot and sits in 3rd. Carps Crushers has fallen 1 spot. Wade, he sits in 4th. Damon, you sit in 5th spot on 8 wins. You've moved up a spot. Popper Ball FC.
8 points.
Wow, 8 points. Yes, so 8 points.
8 wins would be nice though.
8 wins would be nice, especially because we're only playing for about four games. But you have moved. It was a lot of movement based off 1 up, 1 down.
It was, yeah.
Teams that played each other in consecutive spots. So you sit in 5th. Popper Ball, Dylan in 6th. Peter with his team Tankers in 4th, and me very lowly down the bottom on 0 wins. I'm just letting everyone. I've got to let everyone win. I've got to do the good thing for the Patreons.
Oh,
Damon,
that's very noble of you. Thing. Yeah, and exactly. You're holding up the ladder for everyone.
Exactly.
Like,
I'm making sure.
Go guys. You keep climbing. That's why I'm going to hold it until you're like yelling. You're like, all right, can I come up yet?
No. So no Liam. No Liam's club.
It's club. You'll be back. Don't worry. At least you got Tankers almost there, and Popper Ball keeping a little bit company. So all it takes is for you to get a win, both those guys to get a loss, and you're already, maybe not through points differential, but maybe.
I just get 2 wins.
Yeah, I'm trying to make you feel better, and it's not working. Apologies.
I'm really not that fast.
Yeah,
I'm happy that the good folk of the SuperCoach Edge community are the Patreons are up the top of the ladder. I like it.
I love it. I'm just like when you said I'm not that fast, I just imagine that meme of like, the cartoon face wearing a mask with like a smile on it.
Oh yeah,
and then
much.
behind it is the guy like crying.
Yeah, that's me right now.
Yeah. But anyway, that does bring us to the end of the show. But before we go, where can our listeners find us across our socials?
Yes, on YouTube, if you want to get the full experience, audio and visual.
You can search behind your mask?
SuperCoach. Me, yeah, exactly. I'm actually, if you're listening to the podcast, you're just missing out. You're going to search
as
SuperCoach
a tear rolls
Edge.
down your cheek. A single tear.
A single tear. Yeah. More to be cried later. Don't forget to like and subscribe on Twitter. You can find us at @SuperCoach_Edge for all the memes, all the latest news, all that stuff. Damon at DamonJ88, myself at Liam Evans _95, and on Facebook, Insta, TikTok, search SuperCoach Edge, and that's where you'll find us.
Absolutely. And thanks also to those that have got around us on YouTube by subscribing to our channel and helping us in our pursuit of hitting 1K by the end of the season. So if you haven't already subscribed and are keen to help us on our way and support us, if you love our work, love what we do from week to week, it'd be awesome just to give us a little bit of a click and subscribe. So we thank you in advance. But that's it for another episode. So thanks as always for tuning in. All the best, of course, for the round ahead. And we'll catch you same time, same place. We'll see you then.
See you guys.